Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Manta Trends webinar series. My name is Ivy Lamb, and I'll be your host for today's event, SEM for Small Business, 4 tips to get the most from paid search. Search engine marketing, or SEM, is when businesses buy ad placement on search engine results pages. Small businesses can benefit from a successful SEM campaign. After all, it's a great way to instantly drive more clicks and calls to your business. But if you're not careful, you could end up wasting valuable marketing dollars. In today's webinar, we're going to walk through some practical steps that will help you get the most from paid search. Before we dive in, though, I want to cover some important housekeeping items about the event. During the webinar, you should see a slide area, which will allow you to view the webinar. You'll also see 3 tabs: Ask a Question, Attachments, and Rate This. Click on the Ask a Question tab to submit a question at any time during the webinar. We'll do our best to respond during the Q&A at the end of the event. Under the Attachments tab, you'll find more resources related to today's topic. You can go to Rate This to leave us feedback on the presentation, and you can tweet about today's event using the hashtag MantaTrends. Now, if you're having technical difficulties, please email webinarhelp@manta.com. We can't respond to you directly when you use the Ask a Question tab, so that email, webinarhelp@manta.com, is the best way to reach out to us if you're having technical problems. Now on to our presentation. I am very excited to introduce our guest expert today, Deirdre Barrington. Deirdre is one of Manta's marketing pros. She helps small business owners manage their online presence, covering everything from search engine marketing and search engine optimization to reputation management. Prior to joining Manta, she spent 7 years in the wine industry. She's also worked as a French linguist and traveled to more than 30 countries. She's passionate about helping small businesses grow through effective digital marketing. Here's a quick overview of what we're going to cover today. First, we're going to talk about the difference between SEM and SEO. Then we'll dive into some actionable advice to make the most of your SEM efforts, including choosing a platform, ways to target your ads, preparing for the results of your campaign, and why it's important to keep an eye on what's working and what's not. Then, don't go anywhere, because we are saving some time at the end to answer your questions. And just as a reminder, you can submit questions at any time during the presentation by going over to the Ask a Question tab. So, just to get started, we want to make sure everyone understands the difference between SEO and SEM, because these acronyms can get a little confusing for all of us. And Deirdre's going to walk us through sort of the basic difference between those two things.
Thank you, Ivy. Yeah, SEO, while it's very effective, that search engine optimization, that's something where you work with your website, you look at your tags, you look at your content, and the aim is to make optimizations that help it rank higher on search engines. However, again, this does take quite some time. SEM, search engine marketing, is a paid advertising platform in which you can turn it on or off at any time, so it's immediate, and you're going to be at the top of the search engine page. You know, Google AdWords is one of the big things you'll see. So while it is effective, it's definitely not long-lasting.
Great. So now that we understand the difference between those two, we're going to take a deeper dive on SEM specifically. And the first thing we want to cover is basically the first step in any digital marketing effort is what platform are you going to use? And Deirdre, you're going to walk us through a couple of the big options.
Right, so Google AdWords is the biggest player out there. Most people have heard of that. It's definitely one of the largest, or is the largest. However, there are other search engines out there. Not everybody uses Google. There's Yahoo, Bing. Each of those have their own ad campaigns. We also have Facebook. While that is a social media platform, it's actually becoming more important in the digital advertising platform. So the most important thing for you as a business is to focus on where your clients are coming from. Do they use Google, or maybe they're more tech savvy, maybe they're more active on social media? So Facebook might be your option.
Yeah. So the most important part is, don't get overwhelmed. Think about where your customers already are online, and then just go there. So next step. One of the great things about digital media is that you can really target and hone in on your audience. And Deirdre's going to cover some of the best ways to make sure you're being efficient with your ads.
So one of the biggest aspects of managing your campaign is choosing your keywords. So you want to choose keywords that aren't just specific to your industry, but you also want to focus on the keywords that help you differentiate yourself from your competition. So maybe you specialize in residential, so you want to start thinking of keywords along those lines. One of the most difficult aspects of keywords, however, is your negative keywords. So say you're selling products, you might want to put in negative keywords to cut out people searching for a blog or tips, things like that. You also want to make sure that you're targeting your market effectively. So you need to choose the location in which your ads are showing and the appropriate radius from your location. So if you're just downtown, maybe you only want to do a 10-mile radius. And you also want to make sure you are targeting the right times that your ads are being displayed. So if you're only open from 9 to 5, maybe that's when you only want to show your ads, because you want to make sure somebody's able to answer the phone when they call. And then, last but not least, mobile bid adjustment. Mobile phones are becoming ever so more important when people are looking for business, when services, products that they are looking for. So a lot of people make their purchasing decisions when they're on their mobile phones. So it is good to put in a mobile bid adjustment to help target those over just a desktop, searcher.
Right, because a lot of people today, I know I certainly do it, I'm out and about, something comes up and I need it right then, I whip out my phone, and it's like you said, Deirdre, I'm looking to make a purchase at that moment when I'm out and about. So always remember, mobile's really important. So number 3, so you've picked your platform, you've defined your target market and your times and your keywords and all that, and you've got everything set up to go. Well, then you need to be prepared for the results of your SEM campaign. And Deirdre has some tips to share in terms of that part of it.
So one of the biggest aspects of campaign performance is how optimized your website is, as far as you want to make it user-friendly, you want to have your phone number, your email clearly visible on the page, and it also helps to have a contact form there as well. But not only that, once you're getting the calls, once you're getting the emails, you want to make sure that you are responding to those. You want to make sure somebody's there to answer the phone. You want to make sure that you're responding to the emails that are coming in from your contact form.
Right, because, and this ties back to the, making sure you're displaying your ad at the right time. And this is why Deirdre mentioned this earlier. If someone sees your ad and makes a call and, well, you're not there to take the call, well, then you've just lost an opportunity. Or someone clicks and you're paying for that click. You don't want to lose the opportunity to make sure you follow up with those customers. So it's not just a matter of setting up your SEM campaign. You got to make sure you're ready to handle the increased volume and increased traffic, right, Deirdre?
Correct.
And would you even recommend, if you have enough staff, like appointing someone to make sure that during those times they're around? Or
Absolutely. You want to make sure that they're being diligent about checking that email that these contact forms are going to. Maybe it's not their personal, maybe it's their info@.com email. So you want to make sure that whatever channels you are providing on your website for people to contact you, that they're being checked.
Yeah. So the last very important point is that anytime you're running an SEM campaign, you want to keep an eye on how is it doing? What are the results? So Deirdre, can you walk us through some of the ways our small business owners can make sure they're getting the most for what they're putting out there?
Right. After a certain amount of time, I'd say after about a week, you're going to have enough data under your belt to figure out what keywords are working, what ads are working. I highly recommend anything that's not getting you the clicks or the click-through rates that you are looking for, definitely cut it out. Take out the low-performing keywords, take out the low-performing ads, but also look at the ads that are performing well and try to figure out what it is about those ads that are enticing people to click, and then maybe trying to use that formula in creating more ads. And then make sure that you are focusing on a budget as well. Big box stores can spend thousands of dollars a month on ad campaigns, so it's really important to understand that this could really get away from you if you're not tracking it. So you do have the ability to set a budget by day, by week, or even by month. So look at how it's performing, focus on the budget that makes the most sense, and definitely stick to that. And another thing is, don't be tempted to look at your own ad. The reason for that is you're actually increasing the number of impressions of your ad, but if you're not clicking on it, it's actually going to drive up the cost per click. So definitely don't do that. But having said all this, there is so much that goes into monitoring these. So make sure that, read up, go to Google.com. They have lots of support documents out there. Figure out, try to figure out how to manage it yourself. And, feel free to find somebody to manage it for you. There's a lot of companies out there that do that. I know we do that. But, it does pay to have somebody that is well-versed in this in order to help you manage your campaign as well.
Mm-hmm. Because it does take a certain time investment, especially when you get to the stage of looking at the results of your campaign and trying to figure out what's working and what's not, and that kind of thing. So we always encourage our small business owners to DIY, but, this stuff can get very technical. So, if you do think that you need help or can afford to get help, please don't be afraid to reach out and find someone to help you manage this stuff. So, we've covered our 4 main points, picking your platform, targeting your ads, making sure you're prepared for the results of your ads, and then monitoring the performance. But I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions, so we're going to shift over to the Q&A now. And I just want to remind everyone that if you have a question, please use the Ask a Question tab to submit your question, and we're going to start answering those now. So, Deirdre, some people are wondering about the negative keywords. I'm wondering if we can go a little bit more into what those are, and maybe we can give the audience a few examples.
Yes, absolutely. And negative keywords are what you don't want to show up. So when they're searching for tires, right, for your car, you don't want tire blog. Your blog would be your negative keyword. Or tire manufacturers, right? There's certain things you don't want to show up in, certain keywords to perform or to show your ad, right? So blog would be one, maybe magazine, things like that. So those are really good examples of negative keywords.
Right, because it's a way of making sure you're showing your ad to the people who are relevant to whatever product or service you're offering. So you don't want someone to come across your ad who, is looking for a magazine or just some information. You want someone to see your ad who's actually looking to buy your product. So those negative keywords can help to sort of sort out those non-relevant searchers.
Mm-hmm.
So another question we have coming in is about the mobile bid adjustment. I think that's a new term for some of our audience members too. Could you maybe explain that a little bit more?
That is actually something that's becoming increasingly important because, again, a lot of people are making their purchasing decisions on the go. Mobile bid adjustment helps target mobile phone users. So it actually can tell if you're on a desktop, a laptop, a tablet, and even a cellular phone, so an iPhone or a smartphone. And what that is you do it by a percentage. We usually recommend, depending on how you're performing and it's going, focus on starting it by a plus 25%. So what that's doing is it's targeting 25% that would be 75% towards the mobile users.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thanks, Deirdre, for explaining that a little more in depth. So we have another question. Someone's wondering if you can suggest any tools for selecting keywords wisely.
Absolutely. If you use Google AdWords yourself, you are going to have access to a Google keyword planner. However, there is Google Trends out there.
We actually are linked to Google Trends in the attachment section. So if you just want to hop over to that tab, you can see what Deirdre's talking about.
And Google Trends will show you can even do it nationally, or you can set it by state, and once you get into state, then you can start looking at metropolitan regions and that sort of thing. So it's definitely very effective in coming up with appropriate keywords for your campaign.
Yeah, thanks. So we have someone else who's wondering, is AdWords or Google AdWords or SEM better than SEO?
SEM, again, it really depends. So SEM, again, if you want an immediate, I'm going to turn this on, I'm going to pay a certain amount of money, I want to get this ad, it's going to be at the top of Google. I'm always going to refer to Google because that's still the biggest. But, you're guaranteed that your ad's going to show up at the top of the search engine results. And you can pay for it as long as you want. You can set your budget for whatever you need it to be. It's immediate, it's there, it's taken care of. But SEO, on the other hand, you always want to do that at the same time. No matter if you're using SEM or not, I highly recommend SEO as an ongoing process, because it is an ongoing process. It takes months to really get to the top organically, but you want to start focusing on, not just your website, but you look at your online reputation, you look at your social media, everything ties together in helping you with your SEO. So definitely focus there too.
Mm-hmm. Great, thanks for explaining how, those are kind of different. So it depends on your business. We have another question from an audience member who says, I work for a roofing company, and it seems like our most important words are $50 to $75 per click. Is there a way to boost our listing on Google without the high-priced keywords?
Definitely. I would focus on, with those keywords, I would definitely also focus on the ads that are tied to those keywords, because that's going to help drive that price down, especially if they're more effective. That is a really high priced. However, there are other keywords you can use that might be as effective, again, when paired with the right ads, that are going to cost you less money. Mm-hmm. I hope that answers your question.
Mm-hmm. Very helpful. Thank you, Deirdre. So we have someone else who's wondering, what if they have a business that isn't a brick and mortar store? Are there strategies? Is the strategy different, or is it the same for someone who just has an online store versus brick and mortar?
Well, the online stores, right off the bat, you're going to be usually you're a national-based business. So right away, you're probably going to require a bigger budget, because you're going to have a bigger territory than, say, somebody that's just downtown. However, at the same time, your cost per click is going to be a little lower, or a lot lower, just because your demand's going to be higher. So I guess that would be the biggest thing. Just make sure that you either set it for a national base, or if you want to focus on specific metropolitan areas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So following up on some of the talking we've done about keywords, we have someone who's wondering, how do you check for keywords effectiveness? Does that tie back into just seeing how your ads are performing, or?
Exactly. So whenever you look at your performance data, you can tell what keywords had the most impressions. Now, impressions is when somebody actually will see your ad, based on typing in those keywords into the search. Mm-hmm. And it will also tell you which ones are giving you the most clicks. So depending on your how you're trying to roll it out. Sometimes impression's good enough because if you already have a good brand out there and they're still seeing it, they might not necessarily click on it, but they'll see, But the clicks are obviously what you're trying to get them to ultimately do. So you will also see those as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would definitely recommend, again, anything that's not performing, if they're not even getting an impression, then it's probably not worth having them in the campaign at all.
Yeah. So going back to targeting by time, we have someone who's asking, I think this is a really good question, besides store hours, is there any other reason for timing your ad display? Is there anything else that our small business owners might want to take into consideration when they think about those ad times?
Definitely, and I was just having this conversation with somebody yesterday. He does home insurance, and so his office hours are 8 to 5, and we did narrow it down to 8 to 5. But then I got to thinking, I said, well, a lot of people that are looking for home insurance are going to be looking when they get off work, so why not keep it open until 9 p.m.? That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
However, you don't necessarily want your ad up at 3 o'clock in the morning because most likely if they're online browsing around at 3 in the morning, they're probably not going to make a decision. They might click on your ad, you're going to pay for that click, but are they really going to pick up the phone and call you? Are they really going to write you an email? Probably not. So you want to make sure that you're picking times that make sense for not just your business, but your industry as well.
Mm-hmm. Great. So one more question. How user-friendly is Facebook advertising? Do you think that it's more user-friendly than Google or less? Or, just sort of wondering, we've been talking a lot about AdWords since a lot of people use Google, but maybe you could talk a little bit about Facebook too.
Okay, I'm not as familiar with Facebook ads because I haven't done it, but I have seen the advertising for it. It does look very user-friendly. They do give you the option to even boost posts and events and things like that as well. I do believe that they focus on making it more user-friendly than, say, Google Ads. But I would say it's becoming definitely just as effective as Google AdWords because, again, there's so many users on Facebook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think we'd encourage everyone to give it a try. And, again, it's important to remember, just set your budget. I think with a lot of these things, whether it's Facebook or Google AdWords, it never hurts to, sort of start with small budgets, see what works and what's not working for you. And again, it can help to bring someone on to help you manage these things. So that is about all the time we have today for our presentation. Thank you everyone for attending and submitting all your questions. If you want to revisit any part of this presentation, it will be available on demand within 24 hours. So you can go back and listen to our tips and the Q&A session and revisit anything that you'd like to. Also, be sure to check out Manta's other webinars, which are linked in the Attachments tab, along with some of those additional resources, including the Google Trends link, which we mentioned a few minutes ago. We hope you've enjoyed this presentation. I want to say a big thank you to Deirdre for joining us today and sharing her expertise. And thank you everyone again for attending.
Thank you.